as far as being united, even though our country's name is United, and we are the United States of America, and China, we don't have a clue what's going on over there, because you can never tell the debates they're having internally amongst their politicians, because that's never public. That's private to them. It's their business. They don't think it's our business to know what's going on over there. So we're like the husband and wife. We're U.S. is more like Keeping Up the Kardashians, and China is more like a very private show that only they know about. Everything we do is publicized, right? We know the world knows our problems, our drama, everything.
Yeah, we have a short attention span, and we have a tendency here in the States to, think. I don't want to make this sound too simplistic, but we do tend to, in this country, think the best, right, of other nations for the most part, right? Or maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's just that we imagine that we're all in the same boat together somehow, and we mirror our values or the way that we see ourselves or would like to see ourselves onto other nations, right? So that hampers our negotiations sometimes when you're talking about a country like China or Russia, the Iranian regime, the North Koreans, because we don't sometimes seem to understand how ruthless they are and how singularly focused they are on their own best interests.
Well, we're not. We're the complete opposite. So who can be bought more? Is U.S. more for sale, or is China more for sale?
Well, I think we're more easily distracted in terms of, I think, it's a very interesting question. It's phrased very interestingly. I think the problem with the way that we approach China is that, look, the past 4 years, and I, didn't have a dog in the hunt in the past, presidential thing. I like Republican policies. I don't necessarily need to like the person who's leading them, right? But I think we had a relatively honest, open discussion about China for the first time in quite some time, right? Some of the actions that were done, some of the things that were said, I think it actually put the Chinese regime on their back foot. They weren't expecting sort of that behavior, because for decades, we've always approached China in the same way and always expect the same sort of result, that somehow they're going to gravitate towards a more democratic society. That's horseshit. As long as Xi's in charge, Xi has set himself up much like Putin. Look, Putin's going to be president until he dies, right? And Xi has pretty much done the same thing, and he has completely locked down the security services. He's squashed any hope of any pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong, the genocide with the Uyghurs, and yet we continue sometimes to act as if, these are people that we can understand and work with, and we've got aligned interests, and maybe once in a generation our interests actually align.
Yeah, you see so much of the world relying on this one country, China, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's chips. We learned during COVID, we kind of need these guys for pharmaceuticals. You saw what happened with India, 400,000 people a day getting COVID, and the officials of China send a tweet essentially on their on their own Twitter website called Weibo, making fun of India, what they're going through, versus how, look at us, we took a rocket launcher and these guys are blowing up over there, and then they took it down because they got heat from their own people that called out the officials in China. And now India desperately needs 1.2 billion vaccines, and who's the only place in the world that can get their 1.2 billion vaccines? And all the intel, all the negotiations, the trade secrets that they picked up. Is it too late? Meaning, yesterday, I think 60 Minutes was done, a few days ago with Anthony Belkin. I'm pronouncing his name wrong, Blinken. And the lady asked the question saying by 2028, China's poised to be a bigger GDP than US, right? Is it already, are we at the point of no return where China is going to be the largest empire in the world and it's going to be very hard to compete against those guys?
Well, that's the narrative that they push. And part of what China's engaged in is sort of information warfare, right? So they've been beating that drum that, look, it's inevitable. China's heading towards the top of the food chain. the U.S. is a nation in decline. Those things are talking points that the Chinese propaganda machine has been pushing out for some time, and they're very good at it. They're very effective at it. We talk about Russian disinformation all the time, but the Chinese have far more resource than the Russians do, and they've been very aggressive and active in trying to make sure that not just that message gets out here in the U.S., but that it gets out to all those nations, whether it's in Latin America or Africa or anywhere else, where the Chinese regime has been very busy trying to basically put a variety of nations into debt through their Belt and Road program, lock up as much of the rare earth mineral commodities as possible, and look, they've got their first overseas port now, sitting in Djibouti in Africa, and that's not by accident. That's by design. They are pushing out their military aggressiveness in a concerning way, a very concerning way. They seem to be kind of accelerating their timetable internally when it comes to their thought process towards Taiwan. So is it inevitable? No, not by any means. They've got a lot of problems. They've got internally, there's a lot more protest that goes on internally in China than we're aware of. There is corruption that exists within that government that can at any time cause one of their people to topple, right? So it's in a way it's a relatively frail system, and that's why Xi has been so busy trying to lock it down, for his own purposes and ensure his longevity.
You believe that? You believe it's a frail empire where?
Well, no. What I mean is, parts of the way the organization. And look, frankly, maybe I'm just stupid and old school, but socialism, communism, China's been around a long time. Communism has not, right? Communist China has not been around a long time. So when we think of China, you don't think, okay, well, this system has been around forever. No, it hasn't. So what I'm saying is, there's a frailty built into communism and socialism that eventually, I believe, outs itself, right? Comes out and then, we see the decline in whatever nation it happens to be. So that's what I'm talking about. it may not happen, next year, obviously, or the next decade or in our lifetime. But yeah, I don't hold any water in thinking somehow that China is inevitably the next powerhouse.
So if you like this little short clip from an interview I did, click over here to watch the entire interview. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.